Remember, only you can prevent forest fires. This is something I was told every day for a few years, but it was not by Smokey the Bear. Jerry Spinelli would say this to me as I was leaving work every night. This quirky behavior is something that we all have come to appreciate and love over the years. Jerry has had a positive impact on everyone sitting in front of me, whether it be small or large. He has affected our lives in some way. I have known and worked closely with Jerry for 12 years, and this is why I have decided to pay him tribute today. I have compiled several stories and memories about Jerry Spinelli that I would like to share with you today. I will start by telling you about Jerry's teenage years and how he started his life of entrepreneurship. Secondly, I will talk about how Jerry started his family and came to own a successful grocery store. Finally, I will share with you some of my own memories of Jerry along with the memories of others. Jerry Joseph Spinelli was born on December 9th, 1947 at St. Anthony's Hospital in Denver. He was born into sort of a weird situation in that it was his dad's second marriage, which was pretty rare in the 40s, and also his second family. So his dad was 50 years old when he was born. They led a quiet life in North Denver. His older brother Jimmy and his mom was a stay-at-home mother, while his dad owned a local pub in the area. Jerry went to North High School, where he met his best friend Larry Dardano, and they both ran track together. They got into a little bit of trouble here and there, but managed to graduate in 1966. Shortly after Jerry's graduation, his dad died at the age of 70. This was hard on him and his brother both because they now had to support their mother emotionally and monetarily. This prompted Jerry to get a job at a pawn shop on South Broadway. Hearing him talk about some of the stories about the customers at the pawn shop on Broadway, along with some of the characters of people just outside the store, you see how he began to build into the character he is today. While working at the pawn shop, Jerry realized there was an opportunity for him. A bar across the street was for sale. He felt he had the confidence and the knowledge, growing up in a bar with his dad, that he could buy it and run it successfully. So in 1974, he bought the Pelican. The Pelican was open for 4 years, and Jerry always compared himself to a priest when he worked there as a bartender, or owned it. He said he would marry people one night and the very next day divorce them. This is his own little metaphor about the inhibitions of people when they drink. After 30 years in Denver without ever leaving Colorado, Jerry got an itch to do something a little different. So in 1981, he moved to California, where he worked on his uncle's farm with his cousin. They mostly spent their days uneventfully farming corn and watermelon and working the local farmers markets. However, they did have a few adventures here and there when one day their car stopped on the train tracks, stalled on the train tracks, and they couldn't get it to start again. So they were able to successfully get away, but their car was not as lucky. He also battled a bout of blood poisoning while in California, and still speaks kindly of a woman who helped him realize that that was what was going on. After 5 years in California, Jerry's itch was scratched, and he decided to return to his hometown of Denver and try his luck in the bar business again. He then, with his brother Jimmy, purchased 7 South on 7 South Broadway, which is now known as the High Dive. This was a little different than the Pelican in that they not only poured drinks, but they also had food and live music. Every weekend they would book a different live band. And soon they had a very devout following of punk and rock music goers. After about a year of owning 7 South and everything going well, Jerry was set up on a blind date by his best friend Larry Dardano to a Valentine's Day dance where he met his future wife, Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen entered his life with a bang and 2 kids. Adrian, age 9, and Edward, age 4, they became somewhat of an instant family. Although at first the kids did not take too much of a liking to Jerry, after some counseling and time, they began to think of him as their father. Mary Ellen tells a story of how on the weekends Jerry would come home at 3 or 4 in the night after his bartending and find the kids running into their room so he wouldn't catch them up. So he would just go into the living room, turn on the Nintendo, and start playing, and eventually they would sneak out. Oh, can we play too? So while the kids maybe liked this at the time, after a while, the Spinellis realized that this was not the best atmosphere to raise kids with. So they decided that they would branch out, sell the bar, and try and buy a local market. Lucky for them, about a mile from their house, there was a market for sale. So in 1994, they bought the market, Spinelli's Market, and after 17 years, they've made it into a staple of the Parkville community. This is where I, and most of you, eventually come into the story of Jerry's life. Jerry and my story begins when I was 15. I came into the store to purchase some items after school, and he kind of says to me, "So when the hell are you going to start working here anyway?" I don't know. When do you want me to? 2 weeks later, I was training behind the deli, and here I am 12 years later, still behind the deli, albeit in a little bit of a different position. This 12-year loyalty stems from the generosity of both of the Spinellis and the ability of Jerry to be able to lift anybody's spirit if they're down in the dumps. While it was very hard to come up with one particular memory, mostly one that I would be able to share in this type of setting, because as we all know, Jerry's sense of humor is fairly X-rated. I came up with one that I think covers his random hilarity. One day, Mary Ellen, Jerry, and I were sitting here closing, and Jerry just all of a sudden blurts out, "You know, when I die, I think I'd like Richard from Thuman's to give my eulogy." And me and Mary Ellen just kind of look around. That might not seem too weird at first, but Richard from Thuman's is the guy who delivers our meat every week, and that's the extent of their relationship. This just gives a small example of Jerry's spontaneous hilariousness. I was also had the pleasure to talk to Jerry's son, Edward. He shared a fond memory of growing up with Jerry, and I will read it from his perspective. Edward says, "I was at one point into the Power Rangers growing up. Yes, I will admit it. They made a live-action movie, and I begged him to see the movie, as I couldn't actually admit wanting to see the movie to my friends. I made him buy the tickets, and I stood a respectful distance so people wouldn't know I was with him. I heard him tell the salesman that he was a film critic for the Denver Post, and he had to see this effing movie because he was paid to. Because there is such a slew of good memories, many people could not pinpoint just one, as Edward did. But the general consensus upon talking to people is how Jerry tends to bring laughter wherever he goes. So today I shared Jerry's story with you and some humorous memories from people who are close to him. Everyone who is employed at Spinelli's knows it is a unique and fun place to work, and a big part of this is because of Jerry Spinelli. Every day is a surprise, and you never really know what he will come up with next. Silly nicknames are the norm, such as Mudflap, Goo, Leda Johnson, Young Mason, just to list a few of the more politically correct ones. Or one day you may come in and be surprised to have Jerry tell you that your Aunt Helen called and she lost her pet monkey. Firstly, this will surprise you because she doesn't have a pet monkey, but even more so because you do not have an Aunt Helen. Overall, things like this make your day brighter and more spontaneous, and this is all thanks to